Some say the veil between this world and the next is thin, and the wisdom of the greats can still be heard if you listen closely. This interview may seem like just a figment of imagination, but who's to say that imagination isn't a doorway to the real? Let's just say the magic of spirituality is as real as you believe them to be. Good day and welcome to the first episode of the Varun Jaggi Show. We have a fantastic guest joining us for our first show today, who is a multidisciplinary academician, people's thinker, systems designer, thought incubator, change agent, author, philosopher, prolific writer, and a poet. He has traveled around the world and has corporate and academic experience in USA, Europe, and Asia. A gold medalist in management education, he is the author and poet. His spiritual treatise is From Chaos to Serenity, the Divine Perspective on Management. He has also published in Management Science with Oxford University Press and Penguin. It's my great pleasure to introduce you all to Dr. Sudhanshu Bhushan. Dr. Sudhanshu Bhushan is managing partner of Convergence Management Advisors. Previously, he has held positions of Dean IIMT Oxford Brookes University, ex-Vice Chancellor Sri Venkateswar University. He has worked as economist with Indian Cotton Mills Federation, FICCI, and as international finance manager with Sama Group of Industries at Verona, Italy. Indeed, he is a true genius. Today, I have the honor of having him with us to share his unique perspective on the role of spirituality in personality development. I would like to extend a warm welcome to the one and only Dr. Sudhanshu Bhushan. Sir, I would like to ask you, what is spirituality for you and why is it relevant for youngsters today in a fast-paced 21st century life?
Okay, Varun, first of all, thank you to bringing me on your show, and that also the first episode. And hello to all my viewers. When somebody asks me that what is spirituality, I say, spirituality is like a hat which has lost its shape because so many people are wearing it, and all shades, and it has lost its original shape. For some, spirituality is right living. For some, spirituality is ethical living. For some, it is a good moral living. Well, in my opinion, and as much I have been into spirituality, both as an academic and as a practitioner and living in this world, it is not exactly these things. And I talk of spirituality and I compartmentalize spirituality in two heads. One is the Indian spirituality. I being an Indian and being brought up here, this spirituality has had a lot of impact on me. And then as I went abroad for studies, the second compartmentalization was Western spirituality, where we have law of attraction, law of assumption, law of imagination and manifestation, all these things. Both have their own significance. In Indian context, it is the essence of spirit, as the word spiritual says. When we talk of spirit in Indian context, it is the soul consciousness. We'll talk of the word consciousness later on, if it is confusing the viewers. Spirit is the ultimate essence of the human being. And in Indian spirituality, where our main source has been Vedantic thought, the spirituality of Vedic times, brought out in our scriptures, Vedas, Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, and Bhagavad Gita. What is the primary source or an easy source to understand Indian spirituality? My answer is Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita also comes in many commentaries these days. So I, being an academic and a very avid book lover, I will keep on giving you some references also of books. Bhagavad Gita's commentary by A. Parthasharthi is more relevant and more focused for youngsters of today. And it's available easily everywhere. Now, in Western spirituality, law of attraction, assumption, Aisher Hicks, and many other authors, a lot of literature is available. Now, Indian spirituality, as I said, is inward. It talks about the inner being, what is inside you, and that is soul consciousness. So, in the context of Indian spirituality, spiritual evolution is moving and evolving from body consciousness to soul consciousness. And if I use Sanskrit phrase, those of you who are comfortable with language or are familiar, it is a path from Vyavharika Vyaktit to Paramarthika Vyaktit. Vyavharika Vyaktit means my day-to-day living of my life with body consciousness. And Paramarthika Vyaktit is going into an eternal soul realization, the self-realization as we call it in Indian context. Now, Westerners have understood spirituality from a different perspective. They have understood, they are more externally focused. So for them, it is the worldly affairs which are primary focus of any spiritual thinking. To be very correct, I try to be very correct in my sentence when I talk of Western spirituality. They have worked from without. By without, I mean outside. For something or upon what lies within. So, the objective of both the schools of spirituality is the same, but methods are divergent. For the Indian spirituality, it is inside out. For Western spirituality, it is outside in. These are the broad parameters, and to the best of my abilities, I've characterized it, or rather defined the parameters of the current day spirituality. And both the shades I will deal with in my talk, the Indian spirituality as well as Western spirituality.
Have a follow-up question that I want to ask you.
Hmm.
Since today, reading has become a very common thing in youngsters, and they're getting back to reading. A few years back, we moved to certain other content forms, and they're very attracted towards what Westerners have to say in terms of spirituality, in terms of self-help. And with that, I think we are moving towards adapting things from the West, not just in terms of spirituality, but in general terms as well. So, do you think it offers that kind of depth which Indian spirituality does? And secondly, does that mean that if we are sticking to the Western idea of spirituality, we are going away from our own culture or our own roots, which have a lot to offer in terms of literature, perspective, and self-realization for that matter?
Mhm. Don't forget that today we are living in a globalized world. It's a global village. Thanks to technology, we are all interconnected today. And because we are interconnected, the significance of our living is more global and more cosmopolitan than what it was few decades back. Now, the decades in which I and you are growing up, you can't isolate a particular thought process which is there somewhere in the world. You have to synthesize in today's world all the schools of thought and the entire spectrum of thought process. Now, the question is, today we are exposed to globe. We are not exposed to a very narrow segment of our existence, which was in good old days, and which was not possible in our historical past. And therefore, each region, each country, each place, each unit had its own ethos of existence. But today, you ought to have a global ethos. You're all students, more or less, youngsters growing up. In business, you are marketing in USA and Europe and Africa. You are moving around for education here and there, everywhere today. So you have to be familiar of what's going on in other part of the world. That's the practical significance. As far as Indian spirituality is concerned, it is timeless, it is old. And as I said, Bhagavad Gita is a universal textbook for spirituality globally. But as I said, the Americans have worked out without upon what lies within. Now, since you're living in this world, You can't say that like rishis and munis of India that I am spiritual and I am undergoing a spiritual process. I can leave into the mountains and retire into ashrams and then I can survive. Not survive, but I'm going to live my life. Today, youngsters ask me, how am I going to live in this world if I become spiritual? So you can't neglect without. An analysis of without has been done by the American thought process, and therefore it is relevant. Now, what is required is to do a good synthesis of within and without both. As I said, one is inside out, the other is outside in. But objective is the same. And that objective is realization of the self and effective and efficient living in world. And at the same time, giving a satiation and a good realization of a soul consciousness also, so that the purity of existence is with human beings, and which is what we require in today's world, which is in fact full of chaos.
Just got hold of a phrase that you mentioned, purity of existence. Could you just shed some light on this exact statement and what is the context of this?
Do you think there is mental peace if you go out today and have your day's work? I think most of us come back at home, and before going off to sleep, we have, I'm not saying it's a universal phenomena or it happens with everybody, but there are aberrations in us. We are disturbed by something which has happened in office. There's something which has happened in family. There's something which has happened with our friends. Now, how to handle that and maintain a peaceful existence? Peaceful existence is possible if you have your peaceful inner self. And your inner self will only be peaceful if you purify yourself. If you have a very pure consciousness, if you have a very pure heart, if you have a very pure mind, and you are very spiritually, oriented and have a spiritual disposition, then you asked me a few minutes back, what is spirituality and what is its relevance? The relevance is that if you have a spiritual disposition, you have a clarity of mind and clarity of thought, which is very essential, because all kinds of things are coming to you from this world, all kinds of aberration. And if you prevent yourself from this aberrations, then you work on your purification process and you are pure.
How do you reflect on the lasting impact of spiritual teachings on a person's life?
Yeah. See, as we are moving towards a globalized world, I'm saying, things are changing. There's exchange of thought, ideas, technology, business, social processes, culture. And in this process, because we are going through an exchange process and synthesis of everything in our life, we ought to have an open mind. If we do not have an open mind, then exchange is not possible. If we do not have an open mind, the synthesis is not possible. In good old days, spirituality was limited to a selected few who had a bent of mind. उनको वैराग हो जाता था. Vairag means detachment, and they used to move towards the spiritual life. Today, people want to move towards the spiritual life. वैराग भी होता है और नहीं भी होता है. It is coming much from the awareness of the thoughts and ideas which are pervading in our intellectual and day-to-day life. And therefore, this openness has become very receptive. And when it has become very receptive and people are open and people are accepting it, the acceptance comes after confusion. Synthesis initially confuses you because there are 2-3 viewpoints of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ideas, or even many. Initially, it will confuse you, but through reflection, you reach a very good conclusion after internal clarity. And that is what is happening to the people of current generation. Today, I see youngsters more thirsty about spiritual knowledge than I saw about, say, 30 years or 35 years back. And it is all because of awareness and openness, which is exhibited in our existence today, thanks to globalization on all aspects. People like you who are young are wanting to have a talk of spirituality from me. And it has always been my aim to impart the power of imagination and feeling. But I could not have imagined the far reaching effects it would have had on the world like it is having today. So I think this process will continue, and the world will open up and the world will change. And I think the climax of a spiritual evolution would be that we feel that the world will become a very beautiful place and a very wonderful place to live in. Though it may be a long journey, there are disturbances today. I might sound an utopian also when I say this kind of thing, but truth has its way, and spirituality is all about truth.
How does spirituality help in grooming one's personality? And can you shed some light on the word personality as well?
I'm reminded of a book which is Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge of MIT, US, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he came up with the word presence in his second book. I'm not remembering the name, which was after the Fifth Discipline. Now, in his book, Fifth Discipline, he talked about 5 disciplines. The first was personal mastery. Second was mental models. The third was team learning. Fourth was shared vision. And fifth, which was very relevant in 1990s when this book was published, and that was systems thinking. And when I was reading my book then, I was into a lot of spiritual reading, and there was a lot of what do you call reading and spiritual fermentation going on in my intellectual thinking. I said, instead of me, this what's his name, Peter Senge, making systems thinking the fifth discipline, should have made personal mastery the 5th discipline. Now, spirituality is all about personal mastery, जिसको इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हम कहते हैं सेल्फ मैनेजमेंट और मैनेजमेंट ऑफ द सेल्फ. First, every individual, we call him human being. Human is okay, everybody understand what is human. But why the word being? Being is a very significant word in the coinage of human being. I can't speak on everything in one talk today, but I'll give you some phrases. In spirituality, we have 2 states: state of being and state of becoming. State of being is you live in your beingness as what you are. What you are. Now remember one thing. When you're developing yourself, or you're thinking about self, or you're trying to grow up in a society, or you're trying to evolve yourself spiritually, there are 3 basic questions which you're supposed to answer. Who am I? Where have I come from? And where am I to go? Life is a movement from your body consciousness to soul consciousness. And for that, you require personal mastery, mental models, team learning, shared vision, and systems thinking, and all these things enumerated by Peter Senge. And in Indian context, in our Vedic literature, soul consciousness is the word which has been used. Now here only I'll make a mention of another phenomena. There are 2 words, I'll detail it later on. There are 2 words, self-realization and self-actualization. All those management students would know what self-realization. I think most of the Indian youngsters know, or Indian masses know, because it is extensively used in our spiritual literature. Self-realization, self-actualization, many management and business students would know because they've all studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The last need and the topmost need is the need of self-actualization. In Indian context, we have a term which is known as Shat Sampati. It is enumerated in Upanishads. Shat Sampati means 6 wealth. 6 type of wealth which an individual or a human being has. The first is Shama, which is control of mind. The second is Dhamma, which is control of senses, the 5 senses you all know. The third is Upariti, withdrawal of the mind. The fourth is titiksha, which is forbearance. Fifth is shraddha, which is faith. And seventh is samadhanam, which is absorption of the mind in its own self. Now, this is a Vedic exposition in our Vedas and Upanishads. And in 21st century or 20th century, Mr. Peter Sanjay wrote the 5 disciplines. Objective is the same. The words used are different, and they ought to be different because they're coming from 2 different cultures. Personality is one word, and presence is the second word which I am giving you. Peter Sanjay, in a subsequent book from 5th discipline, talked about presence. Presence. Now, presence is the soul consciousness. When you evolve from body consciousness to soul consciousness, or you move from the process of safety needs to an self-actualization need. Now, this is the spiritual awakening. Awakening and various stages of it. Shama, Dama, Uparti, Tiksha, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam. Another thing, presence is invoking the soul consciousness in you. Now, soul consciousness is the answer to your question, who am I? And from where have I come from? And where am I to go? If you know what you are, then you have had the self-realization process, which is very necessary and which nobody does it. Everybody wants to have a personality like Amitabh Bachchan. Everybody wants to have a personality like Sachin Tendulkar. But Amitabh Bachchan is Amitabh Bachchan, Sachin Tendulkar is Sachin Tendulkar, Varun Jaggi is what Varun Jaggi is, Sudhanshu Bhushan is what Sudhanshu Bhushan is, and everybody as they are all unique in existence of God. They are all different. Even 2 twins are not similar. Spirituality is to tell you that you are different and bring about your real self. When your real self and your own unique soul consciousness comes into you, that is the discovery of your presence, which is not personality. Personality is external vanity, whereas presence is inner realization of your real self. And if real realization comes, then personality automatically sets in. 80% of it. 20% of this is done in beauty parlors and all kinds of, processes and methods of, improving your physical appearance and things like that. Grooming and, clothes and everything. 20%. But 80% of the realization of your personality will come from your presence and your inner realization. Now, this is one thing. This is about your presence. Now, if you have your presence, which is your inner self, and your external appearance, if that is in place, you have to live in this world. Now, personality and the problems of the world. If you live in the world, there are problems. Why do you have problems? That's a question, an entirely different subject. The question is how to handle those problems and how to have a personality which handles that problem. So once you have your presence, your problems are all off you. You have to be detached with your problems. Another exposition. All external problems cannot be solved by external interventions. External problems of the world can only be solved through internal clarity. Please mark this sentence and write it if possible. External problems will be solved through internal clarity and not through external interventions. आप एक प्रॉब्लम को एक्सटर्नली सॉल्व करिए, वो सॉल्व हो जाएगी, लेकिन वो बर्थ देगी फॉर अनदर प्रॉब्लम, and that will give birth to another problem, and you'll constantly keep on grappling with the problems in your life until and unless you have an internal clarity and you know that I am the soul consciousness and this problem has come to teach me something. And if you learn that something in a process of evolution and then move ahead, that problem will go. But if you will not have a spiritual learning from that problem will have a repetitive behavior in your life. because it has come to you to teach you lessons in your spiritual evolution. So external problems will come with internal clarity, and therefore the second component of personality development is to, through spiritual evolution, you should focus on getting internal clarity in life. Spirituality is within you, in your inner being, inner conflicts. And if these inner conflicts are not resolved, these conflicts will manifest in your outside situation as a pain, and that is your fate. So this you should realize if you want to have a good personality or presence in this world. There are two words, as I told you a couple of minutes back: self-realization and self-actualization. There is a fullness prayer in Ishavasya Upanishad. Many of you would know it. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnas Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I am full. I am infinite. I am complete. Fullness minus fullness is fullness. Fullness plus fullness is fullness. I am complete. I am full. I am Satchit Anand. I am happy in my own self. I am in my Anand. Anand means bliss, not happiness. Happiness is dependent on something. If I get a good girlfriend, I'll be happy. If I'll get a good bungalow, I'll be happy. If I'll get my career right, I'll be happy. No. You are happy in your own self. A person with a good understanding, a good personality, and a good presence will, what will he do? He will work in his life out of happiness and not for happiness. And happiness is his nature. There are, again, I'm giving you two Sanskrit words, Swarupa and Swabhav. Happiness, which we call as in Sanskrit Anand. Anand ka English translation, jo English speaking spiritualist hai, unhone diya bliss. You are blissful by nature. So you are supposed to work out of happiness and not for happiness. जब आप happiness के लिए काम नहीं करेंगे तो expectation नहीं होगा. जब expectation नहीं होगा तो tension नहीं होगा. Expectation नहीं होगा तो आपको किसी प्रकार की problem नहीं होगी. Because you are, why is in human relationships, why do you experience problem? Because we have expectation from the other. You have expectations from your parents, you have expectations from your teachers, you have expectations from your wife. और expectations meet नहीं होती है तो फिर आपका वो stressful journey शुरू हो जाता है. उसके external solutions हैं. I'm not saying that don't go in for external, go in for external solutions, but in a detached way. Try to work out of happiness, and then you will see that all things for which you are craving for happiness will be satisfied, will be given to you by the existence. And if you will work for happiness, you will lead nowhere. Silence yourself. आजकल देखिए, with the type of environment we have in offices and homes and in friend circle, everywhere is so full of chaos that I see most of the people having continuous thought parades in their mind. किसी का मन शांत नहीं मिलता. बहुत कम लोग मिलते हैं जो शांत होते हैं. रास्ते में चल रहे हैं तब भी बिलबोर्ड्स पढ़ते हुए चल रहे हैं. A continuous thought parade. Silence yourself. Stop your mental thought parade. Your personality is your ideas. You will agree with me. Everybody is an outcome of ideas, an expression of ideas. When no idea arises, right idea comes. When no idea arises, right idea comes.
So in Indian spirituality, we have a word called satsang, which means to have which means to have spiritual conversations with people, and which in a way is also socializing with people.
Silence means silencing your mind, not your social silence. First of all, you're living in this world, but all that mental racket which is going on in your mind because of aberrations in the society, that has to be stopped through two things: abhyas and vairag. Chapter 6, Bhagavad Gita. Now, socially, you can't keep your keep your silence. You have to interact in the world, and you should, but interact in a meaningful way and prevent from yourself from unmeaning attractions. Now, you're talking about satsang. Satsang is something which you are doing just now. You are talking about spiritual awakening and how to move on a spiritual path. This is a positive engagement of the mind, not a negative engagement of the mind. Anything which leads for your spiritual enhancement or upliftment has to be done, because the spirit is the real life of a person. But the thoughts, 90% of them which are going on in their mind, are not required if you do an X-ray of your thoughts anytime. The mental riot which is happening in your mind because of aberrations in society and with which you are interacting, that should be stopped and brought to silence. So the two contexts are different. Social silence की हमने बात नहीं की. आप सत्संग में जाइए, आप अच्छी किताबें पढ़िए, अच्छे विचारों पे विचार विमर्श कीजिए, डिस्कस कीजिए. This is what you are doing just now. I am engaged mentally just now. You are engaged mentally just now. What for? For the propagation of the idea of spirituality and enhancing our spiritual path, and telling people how to move on a spiritual path, and clarifying what spirituality is, what presence is, what education is, and what we have to do. There is something, this is my coinage. Spiritual bath, BATH. Everybody takes bath every day. You clean your body. You make your body presentable. And it's a daily exercise. Similarly, for 1 hour or half an hour, you should also take a spiritual bath. What is a spiritual bath? One line again, if you feel like writing, write it down. Washing of the heart and purification of the thought. The spiritual bath is washing of the heart and purification of the thought. Now the question is, I don't know, somebody will ask, what should I wash in my heart? Anybody? What will you wash in your heart? Just think for it. But I'll give you the answer because today I don't have the audience. Hurt feelings, aberrations from society. The aberrations from society today are such that majority of people are having psychosomatic diseases. And it is because you have not maintained the purity of your mind. You are thinking all kinds of nonsense and reflecting it, thinking about it, and then creating what these psychologists diagnose it, psychosis, and developing a psychosis in your mind. Now sit down for half an hour, remove your hurt feelings. It is very important to improve your hurt feelings. If you don't improve your hurt feeling, you will go on the path of revenge. And when you'll go on the path of revenge, you will again develop those aberrations which you got from the society. हम ये नहीं कह रहे कि जाके उससे बात करिए, ये कोई बात करना नहीं चाहता है, बात मत करिए, बट डिटैच कर लीजिए. आप डिटैच कर लीजिए, अपने को इफेक्ट मत होने दीजिए. Strengthen your willpower, read something good, change your living circumstances, or read some book and do some exercises, watch a movie, but be away from the thought process, a negative thought process which has been given to you by somebody else.
There are two ways to this, sir. Like some people, when they feel something about something and they want to get rid of it, they just sit down and they contemplate on it and they just try to move themselves away. The second way is piling up more information on the top of that existing feeling by reading something or by engaging in something. So do you think that if I have a negative feeling in my heart and I'm doing something to purify it, and I'm doing something, by which I mean that I'm engaging in an activity. So do you think I am just pushing it down somewhere? It's piling up?
No. You are trying to tackle it. How? Because by engaging something else, you are engaging your mind to something positive instead of being in the negative preoccupation. So you're doing the right thing. This is one method. There are many methods to do it. People can go in for prayers, sit down and do prayers, take up some jap of mantra and do that. You have to simply segregate and detach your mind from the negativity. And that negativity should not affect you. That is why I use the word detachment. कभी कभी क्या होता है ना, आप किसी चीज को छोड़ दीजिए, किसी प्रॉब्लम को छोड़ दीजिए, वो अपने आप हील हो जाती है। अगर आप उसके बारे में सोचेंगे और फिर उससे एंटैंगल होंगे, उसने हमको ये बोला, मैं उसकी 2 की 4 सुनाऊंगी, ये सुनाऊंगा, ये करूंगा, वो करूंगा, दैट विल नॉट लीड यू एनीवेयर। इज दैट ओके?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this
That
is it.
answers my question.
Now some people criticize that. The second thing is purity of thought. Purity of thoughts, like अभी आपने बोला सत्संग जाते हैं, सत्संग इज अ गुड वे, यू प्योरीफाई योर थॉट्स। जो विचार आपके अंदर आते हैं, जो थॉट्स आपके अंदर आते हैं, रीडिंग गुड बुक्स, बीइंग इन गुड कंपनी, तो वो आपको करना चाहिए, बिकॉज यू आर द वन who's going to create that environment. So you know, you have to sit down and purify your thought. अब कभी कभी हमने ये क्रिटिसिज्म फेस किया है, और आप लोग भी करेंगे, जब आप कम बोलिए और अपने में रहिए, तो लोग आपसे कहेंगे आप ये तो सोचते बहुत हैं, सबसे दूर रहते हैं, एंड इट इज कन्वेड इन अ नेगेटिव वे। नाउ माय आंसर इज, और कहते हैं कि भाई थॉट इज देयर बट एक्शन इज मिसिंग। दिस जेंटलमैन टॉक्स अ लॉट बट एक्शन इज नॉट देयर। मैं बता दूं उनको कि थॉट is the action in rehearsal. Varun, did you get it? Thought is action in rehearsal. किसी भी एक्शन को करने के लिए आपको रिहर्सल की जरूरत होती है। थॉट एक्शन आप ऐसे थोड़ी कर देंगे।
Yes, sir.
पहले सोचेंगे कि इस एक्शन से होगा क्या, नेगेटिव क्या है, पॉजिटिव क्या है, प्रो क्या है, कौन क्या है, अंडरस्टैंडिंग क्या है, ऑल दैट हैज टू बी analyzed, and that is what we teach in analysis and SWOT analysis and pest analysis and all these kinds of analysis in business management. So thoughting is not bad, but thoughting has to be succeeded by action. By action. That is, thought is action in rehearsal. Please write it down, all of you, if you're listening me.
So can I also say that
This has
overthinking
been
in the
said, and
right?
I'll give an authority to this sentence. I
Okay.
read a book by Carl Jung, and he explicitly wrote a chapter on this, that thought is the action in rehearsal. फिर बाद में हमने उस किताब में पढ़ा कि कार्ल यूंग साहब को भी लोगों ने बहुत परेशान किया, आप थॉटिंग करते हैं और आपका एक्शन कुछ नहीं है। But Carl Jung was a very profound thinker and affected a lot of thought, social, political, and other aspects, which really affected the actions of those decades, and people moved on in their professional careers. Yes, Varun, you are asking something.
Yes, sir. So I have heard you, and the question is coming to my mind. Like, do you think that overthinking can we say that overthinking in the right sense is actually uh, good for us? Because since it's directly associated with thoughts, and you said that they play a very important role before any action has to be done. So, do you think if the context is right, then overthinking is good for us?
Now, your question is very genuine and very, very, very important. What is overthinking? Now, this is a very subjective aspect. देखिए, आप खुद ही इसका जवाब जानते होंगे. You know the reply. Some people, they think for a minute and they realize the truth. Some people think for a couple of days and then they realize the truth. Some people give it up. I will never realize the truth. So this is a very subjective aspect. आप किसी को बोल रहे हैं ओवर थिंकिंग, हो भी सकता है हो, बट वो इंडिविजुअल जानता है कि कितनी ओवर थिंकिंग है, कितनी नहीं है। किसी भी चीज को आप जरूरत से ज्यादा करेंगे, then it will become a problem with you. So be proportionate in your thinking, and one should, I don't know, sometimes there are certain problems in life which require overthinking. क्या ईगो गेम होता है कि आप बहुत सोच रहे हैं और कोई आदमी आपको कंटिन्यूअसली अटैक कर रहा है, आप थिंक कर करके उससे बच जाते हैं, आपको सोल्यूशन मिलता है, आप वो इंप्लीमेंट करते हैं। अब जो आपको अटैक कर रहा है वो कह रहा है यार ये ओवर थिंकिंग बहुत करता है, लेकिन आप अपने पर्सपेक्टिव से देखिए तो आप ठीक कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि आप बच रहे हैं। और जो कह रहा है आपको, वो फ्रस्ट्रेट हो रहा है, वो कह रहा है ओवर थिंकिंग बंद कर दे तो हम इनको मार दें। दिस इज द हाइपोथेटिकल सिचुएशन। अच्छा, नाउ अनदर एस्पेक्ट ऑफ पर्सनालिटी. This is the last one, and then I'll close this question. Interpersonal dealings, your interpersonal dealings and communication skills are also very important in personality. And you are living in a very complex world, very, very complex world. कितना बोलना है, क्या बोलना है, कम्युनिकेशन करना है कि नहीं करना है. Some people say I'm not talk to talk. Even in my case, people tell me you are an introvert. अब देखिए, introvert in current context, in Western context, is considered something negative for personality. But introvertedness in the spiritual context of Indian traditions is considered a virtue. तो आप ये भी कहते हैं चुप रहने वाला बड़ा अकलमंद आदमी होता है, और कहीं पे कहते हैं चुप रहने वाला बड़ा बेवकूफ आदमी होता है, तो कुछ बोलता ही नहीं. You get my point? So my personality should be introverted or extroverted. So here, answer for you. Write it down if you can. Listen with curiosity. Speak with honesty and act with integrity. And try to do this much as you can. क्योंकि आप कहेंगे कि listening with curiosity, speaking with honesty and acting with integrity, तो हम दुनिया में रह ही नहीं पाएंगे. और आप गलत नहीं है. But आपको ये पता होना चाहिए कि you should try to live with these three principles as much as you can. जितना कर सकते हैं करिए. Because two things are there. You will be enhancing your karma. You will be not embroiling in somebody's plans or getting entangled in it. और धीरे धीरे ये जितना आप कम कर पा रहे हैं, ये आपका प्रोसेस बढ़ेगा, तो उतने ही आप प्योरीफाई होंगे, उतने ही स्पिरिचुअली आप स्ट्रेंथन होंगे. और स्पिरिचुअल स्ट्रेंथ इज द रियल स्ट्रेंथ of a person in this world today in 21st century, not his muscles or any other power. Spiritual power is the real power. So you have to live for it. So once again, write it down if you can. Listen with curiosity, speak with honesty, and act with integrity. अच्छा, अब इन्हीं तीन क्वालिटी से जुड़ा हुआ है, don't let limit embrace your life. अब देखिए, in spiritual context, in Indian spiritual context, it is said that you should live in timelessness because time is limited. वेस्टर्न कॉन्टेक्स्ट से हमारा एक पूरी स्पेशल साइंस आई है मैनेजमेंट में, टाइम मैनेजमेंट. टाइम इज finite. I'm just giving you a very deep thought and a deep sentence. Time is finite. Finite time, as I would say it, and infinite eternal you. Why infinite? That is what spirituality has told you just now. Purna Mada, Purna Midan. You're complete, you're full, you're infinite. So finite time and infinite eternal you. What is more powerful? Finite or infinite? Infinite is more powerful. तो जब infinite eternal self से आप ऑपरेट करेंगे, you will experience timelessness. तो आप देखिए, कभी कभी आप कोई काम करते हैं, आप काम में इतना इन्वॉल्व हो जाते हैं कि टाइम का पता ही नहीं चलता है, लेकिन काम बहुत अच्छा हो जाता है. And you feel a special kind of not happiness but bliss. क्या wonderful poetry, wonderful project, a good building made, a good drawing made, a good embroidery done, और टाइम का पता नहीं लगता. Time is limit, time is finite, and you are infinite. है ना? तो किसको जीतना चाहिए? Infinite को. So beat the time and don't let limit embrace your life. Embrace the infinite. और इस पे ही मैं मेरा again the academic in me surfaces up. एक किताब आई है 2022 में, 4000 weeks. लिख लीजिए नाम इसका, by Oliver Burkeman. Oliver, OILVER BURKEMAN. 4000 weeks. Now what are these 4000 weeks? These are the weeks of the year, weeks of the life. एक एवरेज लाइफ आप लगा लीजिए ठीक ठाक लाइफस्टाइल की, is around 82-83 years. In 82-83 years, roughly you will have a life of 4000 weeks. And that is what the title of the book is from this author, 4000 weeks. So he speaks about finitude of time and infinite existence of human being. और बहुत अच्छे एस्पेक्ट्स है, बहुत अच्छी तरह से डिस्कस किया जो बातें हमने आपको बताई हैं. इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल बुक. एंड विद दिस, Varun, I have closed your question on spirituality and personality.
Spiritual teachings have always, emphasized the importance of feeling in manifestation, and it's a very common word these days. So how has this principle evolved in recent times? What is manifestation?
Now, so far I was talking about Indian spirituality and Western spirituality in certain shades. But now this question is essentially of Western spirituality now, and it has a lot of significance. You're talking about the emphasis on the importance of feelings in manifestation, if I'm not wrong, and how this principle has evolved. A lot of literature is available about law of attraction and feelings and manifestation and the power of imagination. Well, the core and the crux of what I was supposed to talk today I've covered it mainly, but these are also important aspects and I'll answer them, and they're very straightforward and very simple. The principle of feeling and manifestation has taken a whole new meaning in these modern times. अगर आप ये literature पढ़िए, Aisha Hicks का on law of attraction and law of assumption and law of manifestation, and many other books, and many other, they have their own satsangs also. We call it satsangs, they call it meetings and get-togethers. The advancement in technology has enabled us to experience our desires as though they are already real. One can now immerse themselves in a manifestation experience, feeling the desires as physical truth. This has made it easier than ever to cultivate the feeling of having what we desire and bring out the desires of life. I'm very happy that you've structured the discussion, Varun, this way, because we have talked about the purity of heart and purity of thought and everything. And when all this has happened, you will have a very pure desires. The Western thinkers तो बात करते हैं कि realization of your desires through laws of manifestation and law of attraction and law of assumption, etc. This is the basic purpose of human life. Basic purpose. We all have desires. Indian spirituality, whether it is Vedanta or Buddhism or Jainism, they have said in good old centuries back, desirelessness is wisdom. अब इस फ्रेज को अगर आप आपके क्वेश्चन के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में डालें तो irrelevant बोला जाएगा, or even in the context of today's world, because life is all about desire, and the life we are living is the outcome of industrial revolution and market economy. Desire नहीं होगी तो पूरी दुनिया ही बैठ जाएगी. So you have to have desires. It's an American and it's a Western school of thought, and therefore desiring की एक ही precondition है that your desires should be pure. And impure होते हैं तो उसमें obstacles आते हैं, materialize नहीं करते, लेकिन कभी कभी कर भी जाते हैं. As I said, life is very subjective. But after the purity of thought and desires, if you desire in a very scientific way, Aisha Hicks की किताब है Ask and it is given. Ask and it is given. Please read this. And therefore, in a spiritual context, if you are pure, your thoughts are pure, and your desire is pure, and there is sincerity in your asking, then your desires will be fulfilled. And this is an evolving principle which will happen. आपका अभी आप डिजायर करेंगे, हमको आके बताएंगे साहब प्योर हुआ नहीं, I did not realize, I did not manifest. So the preconditions have to be fulfilled. The desire should be pure, the thought should be pure, the process should be pure, and then it will materialize. This is the synthesis of Indian thought as well as the Western thought, and the law of attraction and the law of assumption and law of manifestation and law of imagination. That's it.
So, sir, I also wanted to ask you, since you have talked about manifestation, some may argue that your teachings of spirituality are outdated or irrelevant to today's fast-paced world, because these are the things that we have been talking about for so long, be it Western or uh, Indian spirituality. So how would you respond to such criticism, sir?
See, these spiritual teachings, after you properly study them and synthesize them properly to your relevance in today's world, these teachings are ageless and applicable in any era. The mind and its capability to shape reality through imagination and feeling have not changed. They were there and they are there, only that it's realized now in a very systematic spiritual way. The only thing that has changed in the tools and technology are available to us today. टेक्नोलॉजी बहुत बढ़ गई है तो उससे डिजायर्स के नेचर में फर्क आ गया है. The principles remain unchanged and individuals can still utilize them to bring about phenomenal changes in their lives, even in this fast-paced world we live in.
I would like to ask you a question which is just related to this. So, what guidance would you offer, to youngsters of today who are new to spiritual teachings and wish to apply them in their lives today?
Experiment with virtual reality and feel your desires as physical truth. But most importantly, cultivate the feeling of already having what you desire and watch as your desires become reality. So, feelings are very important. I desire to be the CEO of some company. So, in my mind, I am the CEO. And if in my mind I'm the CEO, in my emotions I am CEO. In my thoughts I am CEO. So if my in my feelings I am CEO. So if thoughts, emotions, and feelings I am CEO, then CEO becomes my reality. Cultivate the feeling of already having what you desire and watch your desires become reality. Every journey is unique. So do not be afraid to adapt the principles to fit your needs. So manifestation, realization, and what you are should be in sync for the world which you are going to create.
A lot of people don't value feelings. So, the role of feeling in shaping one's reality.
Okay. Feeling is the energy that propels our desire into manifestation. I repeat, feeling is the energy that propels our desires into manifestation. When you focus on the feeling of what you desire, your mind accepts it as real and your reality begins to align with it. Each and every word is important. It's like igniting a flame. The more you fuel it with feelings, the brighter it burns and the closer you get to realizing your desire. The key is not just to think about what you want, but to truly feel it as if it's already happened. So thought nahi important, thought khali nahi important hai. Thought is the igniting of the spark. But आग तो तभी लगती है जब fuel हम डालते हैं. That fuel, F for fuel and F for feeling. So your feelings have to accompany, and then only the fire will be ignited and reality created.
Okay. Uh, I have sort of a little clarification on this, sir. So, emotions and feelings, these are the two words which go hand in hand. So, everything we feel, we are not necessarily adding a very strong emotion to it. We might just be feeling it. So, do you
Mhm.
think that being emotional about your feeling, feeling it very intensely, very deeply, is also important in this process? Or is it just about thinking and just taking a feel of it?
Bas, one sentence now. Emotions minus reactions is feeling.
Okay.
See,
That means I,
emotions
I don't
negative
have
bhi
to.
hote hain. Yes, yes. Then emotions are negative as well as positive. Feelings are positive generally. Hatred feeling bhi hoti hai, but feeling is a carrier of the emotion. उसमें reactions नहीं होने चाहिए. Reactions हो जाएंगे तो aberrations हो जाएंगी feeling में. और any other aberrations from in your thought process. वो कुछ भी हो सकता है. आपका reaction हो सकता है, आपकी lifestyle हो सकती है, और आपकी thinking हो सकती है. But pure feelings will give you results. That is what is meant by feeling. Feeling is a carrier of emotions, and therefore it is pure. कहीं आप कहते हैं कि हमारी
Okay.
फीलिंग नेगेटिव है. आप कहते हैं हमारे नेगेटिव इमोशंस हैं.
Mhm.
डू यू स्पीक माय फीलिंग्स फॉर यू आर नेगेटिव? आप तो कहते हैं आई हैव फीलिंग्स फॉर यू. यस और नो?
Mhm. Yes, sir.
दिस इज दिस इज द डिफरेंस.
Can you explain why imagination is so important in manifestation? Again, we are coming back to manifestation. So why
Again, very
imagination?
important. Yes, again, very important question. Imagination is the muscle of manifestation. Just as your physical muscles grow stronger with exercise, your imagination grows stronger with use. Another very important sentence. Imagination is the bridge between the world of thought and the world of action. It's through the power of imagination that we can bring our desires into physical realm. The more you use your imagination to shape your reality, the more the veil between what is and what can be begins to blur. It's through the power of imagination that we can create the experiences we want in life. The more you harness the power of your imagination to shape your reality, the more you will see how limitless its potential truly is. Period. That's it.
Since we have moved from feeling to imagination, let's talk about belief a little bit. So, belief is often mentioned alongside imagination and feeling
Feelings.
in your teachings. So, and I've also observed this. So, can you expand on the relationship between these three elements: belief, imagination, and feelings?
Belief is the foundation of manifestation. It's what gives imagination and feeling the power to shape reality. When you believe something is real, your mind accepts it as such, and you start to experience it in your life. Without belief, imagination and feelings are just idle thoughts. So it's crucial to cultivate a strong sense of belief in what you desire. Now, what is belief? Belief is nurturing a robust conviction in what you yearn for it for is essential. Like belief is embedding your feeling and thoughts to manifest something. It is a very robust conviction कि फीलिंग्स तो हैं बट कन्विक्शन नहीं है, रोबस्ट कन्विक्शन नहीं है, रियलाइजेशन नहीं है हमें अपने अंदर. So belief gives that realization, and that's the final cap in manifestation, and it's actually the foundation. I've seen people who are following these teachings to manifest everything from financial abundance to fulfilling relationship. I still recall one person who used the power of imagination to manifest a dream home, complete with white picket fence and a beautiful garden. They would imagine themselves, he came and personally told me and he showed me the house also. They would imagine themselves living there every day, and before they knew it, they were moving in. Another used feeling and belief to turn a lifelong passion for art into a successful gallery show. वो भी हुआ. और एक बड़ा अच्छा सा इंसिडेंट आज से 3-4 साल पहले हुआ था हमारे साथ. Let me share a couple of specific examples to bring out these principles. One person I remember was a coffee lover who longed for a perfect cup but couldn't seem to find it anyway. So they imagined the aroma of coffee, the flavor, the texture, and even the sugar dissolving in their mouth. And eventually they felt the satisfaction of drinking a perfect cup of coffee. Before long, they found themselves sipping on a cup that tasted exactly as they had imagined. So there are lots of examples. And kahan tak bataye? Another person desired a fulfilling relationship and would imagine themselves in a happy and a loving partnership. They would feel the love and affection from their partner and would believe that this person was out there for them, waiting for them. Before long, they met their soulmate and they are now happily married. So instances they think you implement it and it happens. So these are some of them, and there are plenty. People are talking about now. So it's a mainstream spiritual thinking now in the West. So a lot of people are experiencing manifestation, fruition of feelings and everything. So it's now a way of life. Yeah.
Great, sir. I think we have shared a lot of insights as to how spirituality, personality, manifestation, the Western philosophy and the Indian philosophy are all connected, and what different things they can offer. I would just repeat the same question that I asked in when we were having the discussion. Just to have your final thoughts on the discussion is as we come to a close. What would you like to say to those who are just starting to explore spirituality? Just a message for them.
Never give up your dreams and always believe in the power of your imagination and feeling. Remember, where the mind goes, reality follows. I repeat, to all the youngsters and all the students I've taught and not taught, and all youngsters who are seeing this video, never give up your dreams and always believe in the power of your imagination. You are very powerful. and feelings, imagination and feelings. Remember, where the mind goes, reality follows. And it's you, my viewers, who are manifesting, who are having feelings. It's you whose thoughts are taking you to reality. It's you who's purifying your thoughts. It's you who's washing your heart. So ultimately, it's you who's going to write your destiny. So please start from tomorrow. You are responsible for your life and the type of life you're going to have it. So for youngsters, my message is this: to seniors, to managers and leaders in all aspects of life, from a school teacher to all the prime ministers and presidents of various nations, whosoever you are managing, please encourage people to live a life of spiritual evolution. Because if everybody in the world, now I am sounding a little utopian, but it is very, utopia can also be manifested and created, and therefore it's a reality. That is what my talk was all about. So I'm not wrong if I'm making a utopian statement in the end for the senior listeners, that start living a spiritual life. All my senior managers, right from school teachers to prime ministers and presidents, please try to inculcate living a spiritual life in the people you are managing. Then I think this world will be a beautiful world and a wonderful world to live in. I'm sounding utopian, but this world would be the highest cultural achievement of humanity. God bless you all. And that's all. Thank you, Varun. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this enlightening conversation, sir. I'm sure that from this first episode, the viewers will have a lot to take away, and I wanted the tone of this podcast to be, a little more serious than usual, because there's a lot of information that people will probably take in, and that to allow that, I think we should not digress from the topic. And all the questions I think we covered were in an order which was very holistic, and it must have answered questions for the people. uh, anyway, thank you so much, sir. I'm sure
You're welcome,
everyone has
Varun.
enjoyed this conversation. So, thank you so much for tuning into our channel, and stay curious, keep listening, because every episode of the Varun Jaggi Show with Varun is a journey worth taking. Thank you so much, Dr. Sudhanshu Bhushan. Have a great day. See you on the next show again.
Thank you. Thank you, Varun. Thank you. Thank you, Varun, for hosting me. Thank you.